Now, Watkins Glen is next on the schedule. And over the years, when you think about road racing, you think names like Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and Juan Pablo Montoya. But in the last couple of years, add another name to the list, Marcus Ambrose. At Watkins Glen in this race last year, he was runner-up, and he won the nationwide race. And you remember the story earlier this year when he nearly won at Infineon Raceway. Well, Marcus is our guest today on Raceline. Hello, mate.
G'day, Joe. How you doing?
Doing well, my friend, and I'm sure you are too, going back to Watkins Glen where you did so well last year. How much does the memory of that weekend influence the way you feel this week?
Oh, well, you know, you can't look at history as any indication what's going to happen in the future. So for us, you know, we're really focused on this weekend. We're just trying to do our job well. We know we've got good speed. We've done a lot of work on the road course program. We feel like we're ready to take advantage of that. I still feel pretty sore after the whole Sonoma incident at the end of that race. So I'm trying to make amends. At the same time, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself.
Marcus, you and crew chief Frankie Kerr seems to have really built a nice relationship there. The chemistry is so much better now than it was this time last year.
Well, you know, you grow into each other. I'm with Frankie more than I am my wife most weeks. So, yeah, we have to get along. We have to share common interests to some degree, and we get on great. And we're going to be good friends when this racing thing winds down because we've built a great bond.
And from what we hear, that particular racing thing is ending. You announced your plans to move on at the end of the season. What went into making this big decision?
You know, we've had a really rough year, and it's not because we're not getting along. It's not because we don't believe in each other. It's just that we've had, you know, a rough patch. And
I've been thinking about it for a long time. I've been working through with the team about it for a long time. You know, I just feel like it's a great team, but it's comfortable, you know, and I want to put myself out there on the edge to try to get myself to the next level. I've done it before in my career. You know, racing at this level has a lot of commitment attached to it, and I want to make sure that I give myself the very best. I felt like it was time for a change, time to shake things up a bit. I've done it before, like I said, in my career, and it's worked out for me, and, you know, it may not this time, but timing's everything, and the timing for me, the momentum is important, and I just feel like, you know, it was time to really make a serious move like this to try to get myself personally to where I want to be, both on the track and off.
Marcus says he's still working on plans on where he's going next year, but the scuttlebutt in the garage is he's moving to Richard Petty Motorsports to drive the number 9, replacing Casey Kane in that Ford Fusion next season. Welcome back to this week's edition of Raceline as we head off to Watkins Glen, New York, and Marcus Ambrose is our guest today here on Raceline. He works for JTG Doherty Racing, which is part of Michael Waltrip Racing, sort of a partnership between those two. And I think probably one of the more successful partnerships in all of NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing. Marcus, what is the relationship there between you and the guys at Michael Waltrip Racing? Is it a completely open door between the two teams?
very much so an open door. We obviously are our own team. We've got our own budget. We've got our own sponsors, and we've got our own marketing company, everything else attached to our race team. But the fundamental day-to-day operation of running our race team is done by Michael Waltrip Racing. So we feel like we're part of it. It's very inclusive here. It's a great arrangement. I think it's one of the most successful partnerships for a single-car team that's been around really since I can remember, and since I've been watching NASCAR, which is probably over a decade.
In your final part of this year with the team, you've got some other tracks coming up where you did well last year or earlier this season, in addition to Watkins Glen. Some of those places like Phoenix and Richmond. Have you targeted some of those as places you feel like you can really put an extra emphasis on and maybe win?
Not really. We've had a rough year for finishes. We've just crashed a lot. We've had mechanical issues, been caught up in a lot of unfortunate circumstances that really were nothing to do with our team. So whenever we're running and finishing, we're finishing 15th. Whenever we get crashed out, we seem to be 15th to 12th, somewhere around that mark. So it's any week we can deliver. Unfortunately, we're right in the middle of all the drama, and the drama seems to be between 10th and 20th every week. We're right in the middle of that pack, and we just seem to be getting caught up in all sorts of problems. So for us, it's not about tracks that we've run well at the past. We just got to really make sure that we finish. If we do finish, we normally finish very well.
Went to Watkins Glen this week, where he finished runner-up last year. Marcus, obviously you've done a lot of road racing. That seems to be your specialty. How do you rate the difficulty of this course, Watkins Glen, compared to Infineon, where we ran earlier this year?
Watkins Glen is more about momentum. For me, it's easy to set a car up for Watkins Glen because it's more conventional. Sonoma is so tight and twisty and lacking grip that you've got to do some funky things to try and get that car around the track. So for me, Watkins Glen, it's pretty simple. You just try and get the car balanced on the high-speed corners, try and look after the forward drive if you can with the right foot, and look after your brakes. So I enjoy Watkins Glen. It's going to be a tough race, no doubt. A lot of guys are itching to get up there and think they've got a chance to win just like us.
I don't guess we need to remind you about Infineon and what happened there, but you did have the car to beat at that track. Can you take the same car and bring it to Watkins Glen with the same setup and still do well?
I'm actually not sure whether we're going to use that car again, but basically we're going to run a setup that we know is going to work well there. We've done a Goodyear tyre test earlier in the season, and we feel good about it. We feel like if Goodyear come back with a similar tyre that we tested on, that we should be somewhere close. And it doesn't matter whether I'm driving the Sonoma car or another one. The fundamentals should be the same.
Well, I think after what happened to you at Infineon, you're going to have a lot of folks pulling for you this week at Watkins Glen, including us. We wish you well going into this week's race and with the rest of your year there at JTG Daugherty Racing.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Marcus would be a real good pick for Watkins Glen this weekend.